Okay, we ready to go?
Thanks.
Okay, I am Kurt Larson. I am the chairman of the Special Zoning Commission tonight, and I'll call the March 26, 2025 meeting of the Village of Johnsburg Special Zoning Commission to order at 7 o'clock. We'll do roll call. Member Barrett?
Here.
Member Bank? Oh, Johnson, okay. Member Block?
Here.
Member Calhoun?
Present.
Member Dixon?
Here.
Member Lott? Oh, he's not here either. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I didn't look around down the table. All right, so we'll start tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the commission, right now, the first opening meeting, the commission is meeting tonight to consider a text amendment to section 16, conditional uses of the Johnsburg zoning ordinance by adding section 16.9, automobile condos, automobile clubhouse, display facilities, and adding automobile sales showroom as a conditional use in the B2 zoning district. At this time, I'll entertain questions from the commission members regarding the proposed text amendment. Member Barrett.
Are we going to do the presentation first?
No, this is on the text amendment.
Oh, for the text.
So we have our text amendment hearing notes right here.
I don't have any questions right now.
Okay, Member Block.
No questions.
Member Calhoun.
My question would be, for automobile condominiums, it states, may not be included sleeping quarters, utilized for place of residence or other storage of any kind. Is there any way we can add fines of substantial amount in there at some point to make sure this doesn't happen, that doesn't become a residence of somehow?
Yes.
I think that's a good recommendation. Obviously, trying to police that.
Yeah.
Somebody could easily put a bed in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm not talking like a 50 or 100 or 200, I'm thinking like $1,000 a day fine if you're caught. I don't know what our parameters could be at for something like that, I have no idea. That's why we have Michael here, but I don't know what.
So
We want to make sure we don't encourage, and we want to discourage 1,000%.
So we could do some research in other communities that have these to see if what their fines are. I think that would be beneficial.
So just in terms of the maximum, as a non-home rule municipality, the village would be restricted to a fine per day of $750. Now that's separate from whether we would be able to enforce that properly. I don't want to lead the zoning commission to believe that, yes, that's readily apparent, but the easy part of the question is, yes, could you impose a fine for a violation of special use? Yes, I believe you could, up to the amount of $750, subject to a comparison of other municipalities.
Would that be something proper to have in our zoning, written in our zoning,
Yes,
to cover our backsides?
yes.
Okay. That's all I have at this time.
Okay, Member Dixon.
My question was similar to Mr. Calhoun's, and basically got covered there.
Do we want to go to you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, my thought would be, and the commission will still have a chance to ask questions, but
Yeah, I think we need to understand, a little more of our questions that we want to ask.
We need more research.
okay. So at this point in the evening, this is a public hearing on a proposed text amendment to the zoning ordinance itself. And just so that everyone in attendance tonight understands, there's going to be a second public hearing with respect to the contract purchaser of the property, putting it on a presentation with another opportunity for a public hearing to talk about whether, if the text amendment is passed for this, whether it should apply to the subject property. So with that understanding, because I see some slips that say specifically Hidden Harbor, and nonetheless, you can speak at both public hearings, but let's open up the public hearing on the proposed text amendment. Is there anyone from the public who wants to testify, comment with respect to the proposed zoning ordinance change, with the understanding that you'll have another opportunity to talk about if it should be applied to, I'll call it the Hidden Harbor property? Ms. King?
Yeah, so I guess I don't know if it makes more sense for me to speak now or at the second point, but I figure err on the side of the caution and speak now.
We'll be flexible, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Laura King, and I live at 2718 Tishfield Terrace in Johnsburg. I am a resident here in the community. I also own the property across the street from the proposed property at Charnbrook and Chapel Hill Road. So I got, the notice in the mail. So I'm standing before you tonight requesting that you not call a vote to approve the requested zoning change for Hidden Harbor. So I don't know if that's like now with the language change or if it's the second one or maybe both, okay? But I want you to understand the reasons why I'm making this request as a resident. The proposed concept at this point is just an idea. It's not known if the conceptual plan is viable as submitted. Almost no information was available to the public before this meeting. I know that you guys probably have more information than I was able to get, but so I didn't have a lot of information from the Village of Johnsburg's website or from the developer's website. So it seemed like a big idea without a lot of details, and knowing that this hearing was coming up and that my property is right across the street, and knowing how traffic slowed on Chapel Hill Road when boats try to go in and out of that entryway, I figured, well, I guess I better do some research. So I started thinking, who might have say? Who might be able to give me more information? Well, they probably talked to McDOT. They probably talked to the Army Corps of Engineers because there's a marina. So I started making all these calls, but I also looked into like, hey, when do you rezone something? Like I know, so the guy's trying to buy the property, and like if you can't get the zoning, maybe you don't want to make the purchase. So I was trying to figure this part out. So everything that I researched says that you do zoning changes after all the feasibility studies have been done, but before any detailed construction plans are done. So then it's like, well, what are feasibility studies? So first of all, there's some type of market study, market analysis. I could not find this public facing. I'm sure this includes project costs and profitability, return on investment, that type of thing. Then, of course, there is environmental impact, right? We're talking about 16 acres of mostly non-paved surface right next to waterway, right next to wetlands, potentially including some wetlands. What is the impact of that? So we don't have an environmental impact study yet done. Then there's also the infrastructure studies, and that's multifaceted. As you guys know, Johnsburg is probably one of the infrastructure studies. I didn't see a lot of information there, but I called McDOT because I said, well, what is the study? And they told me that the study's 3 months out, and I explained to them that I own property right across the street and how traffic slows down when boats go in and out of there, and what is this going to look like? And they started to tell me. They said the study's 3 months out because it's a large-scale study. We do have some information. First of all, the entryway is going to have to be aligned with Charnbrook Road. Second of all, Chapel Hill Road is going to have to be turned into a 4-lane that is going to bottleneck before the bridge. The bridge is not going to be expanded into being wider. Which, I mean, I'm sure these people know how to do that. I don't know how to do that, but does that sound like a little bit of a nightmare for my properties? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on engineering. But then he also said that Salem Road would have to be aligned with B Road, and that there would have to be huge right-of-way easements granted to McDOT to do this roadway expansion on Chapel Hill Road, and that all of these were going to add on to costs of the project. And I said, well, that sounds, I said, are the taxpayers are going to be responsible? And he says, well, only if Johnsburg decides to make the taxpayers responsible, but McDOT won't make the taxpayers responsible. I said, well, that's good. I said, how much does something like that cost? And the guy said, we don't have the findings yet. The report's not going to be done for 3 months, he said, and he says, but I feel confident that a lowball estimate is $10 million for the roadway infrastructure. And I was like, what? And he's like, I've been telling them this. I told the developers, I told the village. And they seem to think this is optional, and it's not optional. He said, but none of this is going to be formalized and in writing, and you're not going to get the real estimate for at least 3 months when these reports are done. So that was my conversation with Mike Dodd, and I was like, oh my goodness. So then I called the Army Corps. Similar conversation, except for it's the federal government, so they said they have a JD available, and he's surprised that it wasn't forward-facing to the public. But that I could FOIA it, but because it's the federal government, I get a 20-day FOIA turnaround. So I don't have any of those documents yet. But what he said was, I said, was it feasible? Is it possible? And he said, I don't know. I don't know if it's possible for him to get 40 slips. I don't know if it's possible for the marina to be expanded. I don't know if it's possible for us to allow for this on this vast part of the river. We don't know until the study's done. And the study's simply not done. And as far as environmental impact, I called the Conservation District, I called IDNR. I don't even know who the right person to do an environmental impact is, but it just doesn't seem like the feasibility studies are done yet. And so all I wanted to say is, this plan, maybe it is realistic, okay? But maybe it's not, because they don't know, right? Because the feasibility studies aren't done yet. So for Johnsburg to be considering rezoning something, which can't be undone, afterwards, before we even know if the product or if the concept is viable, because the feasibility studies simply are not in from these municipal partners, infrastructure partners, it seems to me like it's putting the cart before the horse. I'm also slightly concerned because I heard that in one of the research I was doing, he said, well, I'm going to start by building the storage. That's going to be phase 1, and then we're going to recapture some of the money and turn that into the longer project. I couldn't find anything that shows this phased approach to the concept. How long the residents of Johnsburg might be looking at storage units before these additional things are built out. And so this is kind of like the last frontier in Johnsburg. It's our last undeveloped public parcel, and so I just really think it's I just want to make sure that something feasible is there, and at this point, maybe this is, but maybe it's not. It just seems like the wrong time to be voting on zoning change without the feasibility studies being done. So again, I just would like to end my request by please saying, please don't vote on changing the zoning tonight. Please wait until the feasibility studies are done, because that seems to be what is most responsible. And thank you.
Very good.
Is there anyone else who wishes to provide any comments or testimony at this time with respect to the public hearing on the proposed zoning text amendment? Okay. Seeing none at this time, no further public comment, I'll close the public hearing on the proposed zoning text amendment and bring it back before you, Mr. Chairman, to see if there's any further questions from the commission and if they want to take any action.
Correct. All right, so does the board members have any other questions they would like to ask?
I don't at this
All right,
time.
would you guys consider making a motion to approve or deny the proposed text amendments?
I'll make a motion, we table it.
Okay.
Second.
To get further information on, like we had talked about, as far as getting fines and some different verbiage, maybe possibly from different communities that have this.
Correct.
Before we move forward.
Okay.
Any direction.
So I have a second, so we'll call roll call for an aye.
We need to identify a date and time.
Yeah, so just
Okay,
for,
let's do that.
and so let me just explain what the issue is, so that if you want to table it to a certain date and the time and this location, especially for those in the crowd, I'd encourage the Special Zoning Commission to think about a specific date and time so that we do not have to republish. Is there a specific date and time so that the benefit of so the public knows without having to check the website, the agendas? Is there a date that?
It's our April meetings, normally, or don't we have a normal meeting date?
We may have some petitions for you at the end of April.
Yeah. We're going to go to May?
Should we go out to May to get the
Can we
time?
go that far?
Sure.
Your first meeting in May is typically May 14th.
So say the 14th?
May
I
14th?
will table to May 14th.
7 o'clock here.
Good. So Commissioner Calhoun, do you want to,
I want to table this meeting to May 14th, 7 PM, and May 14th.
Second.
Okay, we're doing aye. Member Barrett?
Aye.
Member Calhoun?
Yes.
Member Dixon?
Aye.
Member Block?
Aye.
All right, so that will close this portion of the meeting. All right?
do we want to take up the specific zoning request before we get to the text amendment regarding electric vehicle accessory uses?
Yeah,
I think that's
that'd be
probably where
a
the
good
most interest is.
You want to do that 1 second?
No, we'll do this,
We're gonna do
Mr. Oliver's request.
Okay. All right, so right now we will open up the new meeting at 7:16. I'm Chairman Kurt Larson. We will do roll call. Member Barrett?
Here.
Member Block?
Here.
Member Calhoun?
Present?
Member Dixon? Here. Okay. New business public hearing. Hidden Harbor LLC request for B2 zoning with special use permit for planned development to accommodate a marina with drive-up boat storage, a hotel and restaurant with conditional use permit to allow for sale and consumption of alcohol beverages on the premise. An ice cream shop, 4, multi-use retail building housing a boating supply store and vehicle sales showroom, and vehicle condominiums on the property commonly known as 3309 Chapel Hill Road, Johnsburg, Illinois. So,
Yeah, maybe the best opportunity here
let's see
would
the
be
presentation.
to hear from the petitioners. Is there everyone from the petitioners team that wishes to testify? Can you raise your right hand who anticipates testifying tonight?
Okay.
You raise your right hand, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right.
So let's hear from the zoning petitioner as to what they're requesting, why they think it's appropriate, and then after that presentation, we'll bring it back before the commission for questions, and then we'll go to a public hearing for any input testimony from the public.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. My name is Mike Oliver. Not the greatest at public speaking, so bear with me tonight.
You're fine.
So I did prepare an opening statement. I would first like to start by thanking the Village of Johnsburg staff. They have been tremendous to work with thus far and extremely helpful in guiding us along this journey. So sincerely, Claudette, Vinny, Tim, thank you for all your efforts thus far to get us to this point. So getting started, I think we can all agree in this room that the current situation at the property is pretty awful and something needs to happen there soon. I have busted my butt working on fixing this for the entire village for the past 2.5 years. This is the most complex civil site I've ever seen in my entire career. Could I have found a much simpler property? Yes. But the reason we are working so hard is because we do recognize the value of this property to the entire village. And I'm one of you. I am a local guy with a normal job that just has a great deal of motivation, grit, and determination, with a tremendous amount of construction and real estate experience. I live 1 minute up the road, and I also drive past this property every single day. It is also in my backyard, so to speak. I'm just as sick as seeing the current state of the property over there, as I'm sure many of you are in this room. I think history has proven that over the past 30 years, not that many developers are willing to take on the challenges of this property, but we are. And we are motivated to continue to do so with vigor and grit because we see the value beyond all the red tape it can provide our village. Other developers have spent millions of dollars on pre-con trying to revive this property and threw in the towel because of the complexities of this site. To name a few, some were already mentioned: Army Corps of Engineer, wetlands, DNR, intense marine work required. I also think it is worth noting all of these complexities will apply to anyone trying to revive this property, not just us. So how much longer are we willing to gamble and wait for another developer to come along? Another 30 years? I want to thank everyone in the crowd for coming tonight to voice their opinions, even those opposed right out of the gate. You deserve to be heard, and I welcome your viewpoints and concerns. Due to the size of this development, it has taken much longer than other developments in town to get just to this point here tonight. As a result, there has been many rumors and wild speculations that I'm sure many of you have seen on what this project actually is. This is our first time actually going public and unveiling our project, and my hope is that everyone can keep an open mind to what we are proposing here tonight and find common ground while working together, all as locals that have a vested interest to find a way to finally get something done with this gem of a property. As I mentioned, we know there are complexities, but that doesn't mean it's not worth doing. Let's jump in and see what is waiting for Johnsburg on the other side. So I'd like to just jump into the presentation now, the PowerPoint. Is this going to work?
Here, she's spinning.
Is it on? Sorry.
There we go. All right, so all of the photos that we are going to see in this slideshow are of the property itself and the great deal of time and effort and energy that we put in thus far. So here's a quick agenda for the folks that like seeing agendas and how much time we're going to spend on each section. But we're going to kind of go a little bit quick here to give everybody a chance to voice their concerns. So introductions. We'll start by introducing our Hidden Harbor team that's here with us tonight. This is Josh Stark. He is president of Focus Construction, and he will be the general contractor for the development of Hidden Harbor. We also have Adam Levy, and he is the architect on Hidden Harbor. So I already said myself, I'm like Oliver, but we have many extended family members that live in the area. Everybody you see in the top right photo lives within a 10-minute drive from here. My wife teaches at Johnsburg. I currently live right down the street on Pistachio Lake. We are sick of seeing the property the way that it is, so 2.5 years ago, we decided to start taking action to do something about it. I will be the face at Hidden Harbor. I think that's a value. I think for the board and everybody to know, like, you'll have a direct line of communication to me. This will be my full-time job. I will quit my job and run Hidden Harbor. And if there's a problem, the neighbor has a concern, you can come see me directly. I'm not going to come build this and leave town and you'll never see me again, okay? Local here to stay. So we talked about how I'm very local. We are the target market. So I don't show this slide to showboat in any way. I worked extremely hard for every toy that you see that I have in this slide. On the top right is a picture of me in 7th grade. I earned $3.50 an hour working for my dad, and I saved up enough to buy that Wave Runner. My limit on how far north I could go on the water was the Johnsburg Bridge, right next to this property. I have seen this property my entire life, okay? I'm extremely hardworking. I have a tendency to set these lofty goals in the bottom left. That's me in 3rd grade holding a Dodge Viper. 23 years later, I got the Dodge Viper, okay? I am the target market. I am super into cars. I am super into boats, okay? We want to build the Oliver name within this town, within Johnsburg, and have it become our legacy. That's my son just in front of the car in the bottom there. I want him to run this facility someday. So, as I stated before, we have 2.5 years invested in everything thus far. It's not like we started last week or last month or even last year. It's been a 2.5-year journey so far to get to this point. Lastly, on this slide, I'd like to just say we fully understand the importance of this property. This property is vital to Johnsburg. It is in the heart of Johnsburg, on the water, and it needs to be treated like that, right? So, continuing on, just to give you a little bit of my track record and what I've been doing for the past 15 years, these are developments that I have led 100+ man crews in the field to get built. The two on the right, I actually worked with Josh, who is now our general contractor, and we did that project together, 850 Lakeshore Drive, $78 million. I've fostered a lot of relationships along the way in my career that will be leveraged and rolled into this development. Ultimately, after doing my day job for the past 15 years and seeing all these other developers building their projects for them, that is what has inspired me to chase my dreams and build Hidden Harbor. So our mission statement. We want to create an inspiring destination that unites the public, card collectors, and boating enthusiasts all within one vibrant community. So there are 3 core operations at Hidden Harbor, driving the growth of 7 new businesses. So we are not talking about 1 new business tonight. We are talking about adding minimum 7 new businesses to the village of Johnsburg. We have the Motorcade division, which is the red logo. The blue logo is our marina and storage operations, and then we have the overall investment. I do not have the money to foot the bill for all of Hidden Harbor myself, so there will definitely be investors. Okay? What do those things provide? Ice cream shop, bar and restaurant, hotel, existing hotel, retail shop, vehicle showroom, marina, and motorcade. So providing jobs for those in the village. I could see hiring students that are off for summer to help with summer type activities. This is a tremendous opportunity for Johnsburg. Oh, Vinny. It's not the end of the world, but there's this is supposed to be our site plan and just show you where we're going to be viewing from. So I'm just going to go to the next one and we'll jump right into it. Basically what we're going to do for everybody here in attendance, we're going to start at the water, okay, at the Fox River, and we're going to work our way in deeper into the property as we progress through the next few slides. So starting right on the river's edge, we want to provide Johnsburg a mini version of the McHenry Riverwalk, okay? We want to have seat walls where people can come down and enjoy the river. Like I said, I grew up 2 miles south on the river. Our favorite thing to do is sit there and watch the boats go by, okay? So providing the entire public access to come down and enjoy, it's about 600 feet, don't quote me on that exact number, but it's a lengthy, the vast majority of the river frontage. We want to have a play area for children, a splash pad. The restaurant would be reopened in the existing hotel with seating out there. You can see our lighthouse in the background. Maybe Johnsburg so decides to take this Riverwalk and extend it north of the bridge and tie it into Grandma's Mexican restaurant and that whole property, right? It's a Riverwalk. I think everybody gets it. So right at the end of the peninsula, it's like protecting our harbor. It's a kind of a cute story with this lighthouse. I was trying to figure out one day on my way to work how to get my daughter excited about the development. I told my daughter, I said, you should do an ice cream shop. Well, this slowly evolved, and as Adam got caught wind of this, our architect, how long ago, Adam, a year plus ago? This slowly evolved into this amazing lighthouse that is now like the focal point or our landmark, both by land and by sea or water, of the property. Wherever you are on the property, you can see the lighthouse. I think the neighboring communities are going to be jealous of this lighthouse, and they'll be talking about it in Lake Geneva. Did you go get ice cream at the ice cream shop? Okay. All right, so can't really show you the site plan because it's not showing up, but this basically is encompassing or circling the motorcade buildings. They create like a courtyard space. I wonder...
Would you like me to bring up the site plan?
That's okay. We're just going to keep going. Basically, the courtyards have been designed, the buildings have been positioned in a very strategic manner to not only separate the Dubs activity. When I say Dubs, it stands for drive-up boat storage. But the site has been strategically designed to keep those 2 operations separated. Also, they provide a courtyard area where we want to be able to have car shows in the summer months where we open up the private gates to that part of the property, and there's a car show going on there with boats in the background, and you can go get ice cream and whatnot. So, you're going to work on it, Bing?
I can bring up a site plan if you'd like to go to it.
So, it provides this courtyard area, like I was describing, for events. So here, Vinny, how do you do the there we go. I'm shaking, so bear with me, but like in here, okay? That's like a courtyard area for car shows, events. We know that Johnsburg, even in the current state of the property, we already have our Memorial Day parade that leads from the parking lot of this. Like, we want to lean into this property being the social hub of Johnsburg, which is a later slide. But you can see how 2 of the motorcade buildings are on the actual harbor waterfront, and the other 2 are courtyard views. There's 28, Vinny, we can go back now to the normal size. Thank you. So there are 20, so let's talk first about what is a motorcade. So a motorcade is basically a huge garage. It is one place to store all of your toys, whether you have a motorcycle, a wave runner, a side-by-side, a go-kart, cars, boats. It's one place to store all of your toys in one spot, okay? As we discussed before this with the text amendment and that, they are not residential units. We are not allowing bedrooms. We are not allowing people to spend the nights here, okay? They are completely customizable. Right now, our current plan is we're going to build out half of them to this spec that you're about to see with these photos, and the other half will be basically drywall only, and the ultimate purchasers of these can customize them or fill them out however they see fit. They can build them out to their spec or their liking, all going through the village, of course. So again, they'll be sold individually. This is a very active part of the property. We kept the active part of the property as close to the water frontage as possible. And it's very unique. This concept is a very unique concept that's kind of sweeping the nation. Not really other neighboring communities have anything like this. So it does attract wealthy individuals to our community, which I think is the type of people we want to be attracting to our community. And I think just overall in Johnsburg, with just all of our recreational activities that we have as options here, I think this fits well in our community. So we can circle back to these during the Q&A section, but this is a floor plan of a motorcade that's one of the 4 buildings. Each building will have 7 units. The model unit that you are about to see are the 2 units in green that are highlighted combined into one. So we will allow buyers, if somebody wants to buy the last 2 units on the left, for example, and have consecutive units, we would allow that. They could buy 3 if they wanted, or they could buy just 1. But there's, as we're selling them, those are options for the purchasers. So I did put little green highlight areas, again, just so everybody can get their bearings on the garage doors that are part of the model unit. It is the end cap in that building on that elevation, and then also the sliding glass doors facing the harbor. It is all the same unit that we're about to see photos of. So this is what they look like on the inside. Again, very, very open. It's basically just a huge garage, okay? We design things in a way to, living on the river summer months, we like to get a breeze going through there. Those sliding glass doors can all be opened along with the garage doors that you can't see in the picture, but they're to the left, and get a nice breeze and everything going through there, okay? This unit in particular is just over 5,000 square feet because we combined 2, okay? I'm gonna go pretty quick through these next few photos, but just some visuals. This one, we put a workbench area on the right for if you're working on cars. It has a car lift in it. Continuing on, we put right when you come up the stairs, we put an office. We're not going to allow client-facing businesses, but if somebody works from home and they'd rather work from this office instead with no client interaction, that's an option, okay? That is a full slab of granite in that countertop. It is 6 by 9, so give you an idea, it's very large. The only interior partition is right here. So that is the bathroom. It does have a full bathroom in it. Exterior, this one would be facing the harbor area. Because we don't have a demising wall in the middle right there, we put an indoor-outdoor little garage door thing where you can sit and hang out inside and outside. Again, all these glass doors would open. You can see, kind of looking from the kitchen, how it's open to the garage down below. All right, so the retail building. We'll get Vinny to pull up the site plan, and just really quick, Vinny, it'll be really, really fast, just so everybody can get their bearings and where they are. It is the red building on just behind the existing hotel, okay? And the viewpoint that we're about to jump into is if you were standing on the standing in the parking lot in the southwest corner, or planned southwest corner, looking at the building, it's the viewpoint that we're about to jump into next. Then we can go right back. So this is the retail building. It's a retail building and a car and boat showroom. So on the left is basically you want to go boating with your family, you live in town, you come down, we put your boat in the water, and you said, hey, I forgot sunscreen, or we need ice, or snacks, or whatever type nautical boating type items. That is what this store is on the left for. In between the glass building and this retail building is a vestibule that cuts all the way through from the parking lot to Chapel Hill Road. That is where we have our bathrooms for special events, car shows, stuff of that nature. People would be able to walk in that vestibule and go to the bathroom. On the right, if they were to walk in there, that is the vehicle showroom. We don't anticipate a high volume of car sales out of there, but it's basically also like an attention getter for us. We want to put one exotic car or one really, really nice boat or something in there, and as people are driving by in Chapel Hill, catches their eye. What is that? What's in there? Oh, they changed the car in there, okay? Up above on the second floor is a management office for just running the entire facility in like a storage area. So this is a floor plan. We're missing some photos on this slide, but basically the floor plan is on the right for the first floor. We can go into the architectural drawings again after. All right, this one is showing the Dubs area. So that big red box is basically showing the Dubs area, and the top right arrow is basically showing you a future viewpoint that we're going to take from like basically Bay and Chapel Hill Road. So like right here, and then the other one that we're going to take a view at is right here, basically where we're going to be standing at the next few slides here within the rendering. So this is the main entrance. This is the main entrance. So I think it's important to note for everybody that when you see the site plan from a bird's eye view, it's like, holy cow, there is a ton going on, right? We have been, and Adam can attest to this because I've been pretty annoying with it for the past 2 years, we've been unbelievably sensitive to the street level and curb appeal that Hidden Harbor will have. We understand that this needs to fit within the village, and we're not downtown Chicago, and this needs to fit our village, okay? So every decision that we've made to date thus far has taken all of that into account to the best of our ability, okay? We do have a multi-use bike path that you can see obviously where the bikers are, landscaping along Chapel Hill Road, positioning in the Dubs. So landscaping along Chapel Hill Road, when we first met with the village, they told us we're going to be sensitive to, this is, the first thing people see is they're pulling in. So we have to make the curb appeal and everything look nice. So what we did is we actually took, this rendering is not that far along, but this one right here is actually the end of the storage building. We took the retail building architecture and mimicked it and brought it all the way down to where the storage is to make it not look like storage for boats, okay? The landscaping along Chapel Hill, intense landscaping with a lot of trees. We do have a landscaping plan we can pull up, but trying to make it have the best curb appeal that we could possibly have. The other thing is we've put these buildings in every which way you can possibly imagine and positioned them in many different orientations. However, we think the way that we're currently set up, we are set up to allow for future Salem Avenue. Salem Avenue realignment is not decided yet. I think Laura King was the person that spoke. That is still very much in the works, and we're still working through all of the complexities with McDock. So we do not have an official determination on what is happening with that road as of today. Okay. Let's see. So what is a Dubs, right? I'm a nerd, and if you grew up in the 90s like I did, Dubs, rolling on Dubs, I don't know. Anyway. I did drive-up boat storage. I'm like, wait a minute, the acronym is Dubs. That's what we're going to call it. So the Dubs facility is 120,000 square feet. It is a Class A facility for storing vehicles only, no boxes. We are not going to store boxes, grandma's couches. It is for vehicles only. Individual units that are rented monthly. So this facility is ran by me, Mike Oliver. And it is rented by the month. All the other units that we were looking at, the motorcades, those are sold individually like condos, okay? Why this model makes sense. So first off, I own a boat, I have a lot of friends that own boats, and a lot of family members that own boats. There are not good boat storage options in our area. Most of the facilities do not even accommodate this 8'6" standard width of a trailer, okay? This is giving the entire town the ability to store their boat feet from the water, okay? The other main reason is this allows stabilization for the property. There is a balance to be struck with these Dubs units and how many fun things we have at the river, okay? I am on, believe it or not, after 2.5 years, I'm on financial model number 56, trying to figure out the right balance of how many Dubs units to pay for all the really fun stuff by the river. We think this is the balance that makes sense, okay? It's very much a give and take or tug and or pull or whatever you want to describe it as, but the other thing I think is worth pointing out is this property is unbelievably deep from the riverfront to, it goes all the way back to Bay Road. So it is a very, very deep property, over 16.5 acres. So the new Johnsburg social hub. Let's put our village on the nautical map in a big way. The reason I brought the TV behind me today in the room is it's all my drone videos that I took last summer of all the boaters going past our property. And I can tell you that the one thing that not a single boat did in all of the videos that I took is stop. There's no reason to stop in Johnsburg from a nautical perspective and come enjoy our village. I think that's very sad, and I think that we can fix it. How can we fix it? By providing calm waters in a protected harbor that the public can use, okay? We talked earlier about the parade and public events and the current state of the property. We use that property to this day, even in its current state. We want to lean into that and have more events, charity events, combining all these attributes into one common location and camaraderie amongst boat and car enthusiasts. So car guys like boat guys like car guys, we're all kind of gearheads and get along together, right? So it's providing an environment for those like-minded individuals to come together and hang out, okay? So, thank you, Vinny, you're the best. See what I mean? You're the best. All right. Rather than use my pointer, I'm going to actually just walk over. So, the thing we're trying to point out in this one is how much land we are actually sharing with the public versus what is going to be held back as private or semi-private. From here to here on the Fox River is public, what we're proposing to be public property for people to come down and enjoy the river frontage, okay? This harbor, the vast majority of the piers within this protected harbor would be available for anybody to come in safely off the water and use. And come, maybe they go to grandma's, maybe they come to this establishment, maybe they can go across the river, okay? This little strip right here of boat piers are the only ones that we have rights to Laura King's question, how many pier rights do we have? We have a letter from the Army Corps of Engineers that tells us how many we have. It's actually more than this, but this is all that we're taking. Those would be assigned to the motorcade units, okay? My biggest fear in this town is if we don't build Hidden Harbor, sure, somebody could build condos, everybody likes hearing the word condos. I don't know that they would share the same amount of public space that we're willing to give for the community to enjoy the riverfront. I really, truly don't. So I wanted to point that out. I'm trying to think what else was on there. I think that's everything. Let's jump back in. Wooden Paddle Pizza. So I went to high school with this guy that owns this organization. He just opened his second location in Lamont. Actually, last weekend, he built a $7 million pizza restaurant downtown LaGrange. He just opened. He has another location in Lamont, Illinois, and he is very excited to open this operation. This is his actual food, pictures of his actual food that he would like to bring to our village, to our town, and operate this out of the existing hotel, the old restaurant down there. So adjacent communities. Our neighboring communities are knocking it out of the park. They have McHenry Riverwalk. I'm sure many of you guys went to the St. Patrick's Day festivities in downtown McHenry. Most people have seen the small shops and how other communities are taking advantage of the riverfront. The bottom left picture is Fox Lake. They just built an amphitheater, a beach, a splash pad. They're giving their residents an option to go enjoy their greatest natural resource. This boosts their economy, it provides more jobs, and it drives additional revenue to their villages. This picture pains me to show everybody, but this is our current access. This is what this has become. Developers have been running away for 3 decades due to the red tape surrounding this property. The complexities of the site, just to mention a few that have already been mentioned: DNR, Army Corps, MCDOT, EPA, Fox Waterway, FEMA, wetlands, and an excessive amount of marine work. We have been in contact with all of those agencies for the past 2 years. Ready to build now. So we are at the beginning of this process with zoning, right? We are ready to continue pushing forward. No current cash flow. So one of the reasons I think this property looks like this is because there's no cap. When a developer goes to a property, the commercial real estate is valued off of the cash flow it brings in. It does not bring in any cash flow. So the problem that we have as the developer trying to fix this is, how do you get cash flow to come in to then pay for and fix this nightmare that we have, right? So the balancing act for that, again, is why the Dubs exist, okay? The village of Johnsburg needs your help. I think we all can agree we need to fix this, okay? I've been seeing this for the past 30 years of my life, and I'm done, and we started to take action. Know that we don't plan on stopping with our current plans that we're presenting tonight. We plan on doing more and coming back here many times in the future to get more things entitled and pushed along, like the McHenry Riverwalk shops. The top left photo, I know that I couldn't find one that was not in the Caribbean climate, so we're not going to have grass roofs. But one of my favorite things to do at my parents' house was sit on the pier and watch the boats go by. So maybe we have 3, 4, or 5 of those that are along the river where it's too rough to park boats. If you notice in our site plan, we don't have any pier slips along the river right there, because if you're a boater in Johnsburg, you know when you're in Johnsburg because it's so rough, okay? As a boater, I would never tie up my boat on Johnsburg on a Saturday and watch it fly around, which is the poor guy Leo that owns Grandma's Kitchen. I broke the news to him the other day that I'm not going to get any boaters. But he would if we had a harbor right next door to him, right? This is what we do not want this facility to look like, okay? This facility is in Mundelein. It's called Big Door. All right, they had 28 units. We think that is very cold architecturally. When we hired Adam, we showed him these pictures and we said, Adam, we cannot let it look like anything close to this, okay? The bottom right picture is Iron Gate. They are in Naperville, right? Naperville is a little bit bigger than Johnsburg. They have 179 units at that facility, a lot more, okay? Kind of like the juggernaut in our area for motor condos. We have 28. What we want to do with our 28 is make them nicer than any other one that's even close to around here. Don't know what that one was, Vinny. Summary?
Get a blank screen. Summary's next, sir.
Okay. I guess let's go to the summary. So, pain in the market. Obviously, those pictures we just looked at were pretty painful. I think boat storage availability in our area is pretty painful. We want to fix that. We want to provide a solution for people to store their boats. This facility kind of checks a lot of different boxes. We're available to the wealthy individual that wants to store his 7 cars in one garage, but we also offer options for in and out service if you have a fishing boat in town and you just want to launch it and you live right up the street from here and you don't have water access. We're accommodating as many different people as we possibly can. Customer validation. Again, we just started, we've been kind of pushing to get to this point, to get all these neat visuals and everything for everybody to see, and our drawings and our studies. We did do the Lake County Fairground Boat Show a couple weekends ago. Very well received, very, very well received. We had hundreds of people that came by, stopped by, talked to us and said, that is awesome, we wish you the best of luck, please do it, we need something to happen over there. Okay? Why are we different from our competitors? We have the water access, for one, that is sprinkling in this nautical flair with this motor cave condo concept we think is a slam dunk. And bringing the value to Johnsburg. Josh recently provided us some numbers for this round of pricing, and we're north of $30 million at this point. Okay, so this is a tremendous value that we should all seriously consider for Johnsburg. I'm looking forward to hearing all of your questions and concerns and opening it up to the open forum. But yeah, I guess we can just move in right to that. So thank you.
So at this time, are there any questions from the commission before we open up the public hearing component?
Okay. Member Dixon.
Yes. Will gas be sold on site?
So we do have future ambitions to sell gas, but because of the complexities that we're dealing with already, not at this time.
Okay. And how many pier rights? I see that there's 62 in the slip harbor. How many pier rights did the Army Corps of Engineers grant?
Yeah, so they gave us rights to 12 multi-use piers, is what they're referred to. And the rest of the piers would be transient use piers, which means there's no overnight mooring. So the multi-use piers, you're allowed to, like I said, that strip that had the private ones, they'd be able to moor overnight, but all the other ones we want to have available for the public to come drive into the harbor anyway, and we would strictly prohibit overnight mooring.
Okay, perfect. And have you reached out to the Fox Waterway, a possibility of a no wake ever going in by the bridge?
So we have no real say in that, to be honest. In the last few years, after talking with everybody about the potential for the no wake, I've noticed that there's about half the people I talk to that are very adamant that it should happen, and the other half are very adamant that it shouldn't. So we are trying to stay, like we have been for the political election, very neutral. Okay?
Probably about 100 years that question's been asked.
Yeah. I'll say, I do like seeing the boats go by fast. That's where I grew up. That's what I'm used to seeing. There's some folks I think that are in the crowd tonight that they also appreciate seeing the boats go by fast. I like hearing them. I like smelling them. This property is close enough to do that. So.
For sure. And then will you offer leasing options as well, or is it just outright purchase?
I believe outright purchase.
Okay. Perfect. And then...
That's a good idea, though. We might have to think about that.
And then about the slip harbor, can you kind of elaborate a little bit about the process of the dredging that's going to happen? I know you're expanding the harbor.
Yeah, so basically, I'm going to walk over there and show everybody. It's kind of hard to see on this PowerPoint, but right now, the existing footprint of the harbor is this thin white line. So that is the existing harbor, okay? Jugger Dunes, Paradise Cove, the restaurant sits like right here. So that gives you an idea of how much bigger we're making the harbor, all right? The harbor, right now, you pull into it. First off, it's not set up properly to kill the wave energy that's coming in to the harbor. It basically just bounces off the seawalls, and the boats on a rough summer day are still bouncing all around. We have shared this plan with the Army Corps. We knew, because we have construction knowledge and worked with them before, we knew that they would never let us put a breakwater that protrudes out into the open navigable waterway. So we kept our breakwater internal. This is riprap that's going to basically kill the wave energy and prevent it from ever even entering the harbor. So the harbor can be nice and calm. Okay? And then all this is much bigger. As far as this operation and how we would go about doing that, we would hire specialists that specialize in marine work. They would follow all the EPA rules, all the Army Corps rules. That will be scrutinized to the upteenth degree during all that entire process. But from a high level, what I've told them, because I just can't get the field guy out of myself, Josh makes fun of me, I would cofferdam off the front and drain the harbor as much as I possibly could before I dug it all out. And probably do it during the winter months so that the water table is low in general.
And then does he have the laser?
So yeah, one last thing to bring up is the boat ramp. So the current boat ramp is right here. It's pretty much, we should just close it so nobody can use it. It's unusable. Again, the wave energy coming off the boats, you're trying to launch your boat's flopping around in the waves. We moved our boat ramp. We do have rights to the boat ramp from the Army Corps in a written letter. We've moved the boat ramp from on the rough side of the river to within the protected harbor. So now you can safely launch your boat.
That'd be a public boat ramp?
So that boat ramp would be serving the Doves units. So we would have valet service where we can put your boat in and out for you. Or if you so choose, you can keep your boat in there and come launch it yourself. Right? There's like forget the number off the top of my head, but there's a slight increase for valet service if we are launching it for you.
Only if you're a...
So, excuse me, guys. So, this is the commission's questions. We will open up. It makes it for a better meeting if people ain't just start blurting out questions, because that's just gonna go on. Not to be rude, that's why we fill out our things, and when we open to public, then you guys can come up and freely ask all them questions. Just so it keeps everybody kind of focused. Thank you. All right, go ahead.
And then, do you need your laser pointer?
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks, Mike, I appreciate it. All right, so Salem Avenue right here, and you see Dub 2 here. I can see a traffic concern possibility with how close this is with Bay Road. Now, would you take into effect something maybe having a possible road created right here and to going out there for Bay Road? Because that way there's a stop and go light, and I would think that all the boat traffic on the trailers would make it more accessible to go in that way with the new road and then go up to Dub 2. Is that something you would consider? Or?
So we are set up for both scenarios. We have pre-thought and thought about both scenarios. Unfortunately, we're not able to speak intelligently to how MCDOT is going to give us their determination. Our approach right now with planning and zoning is to get approval based on this plan, and if this plan changes, we will have to come back and have this same meeting. There are one of many issues that we have to discover and discuss here as a group, and to answer your question, Steve, yes, there is plans for MCDOT to realign Salem Avenue directly across from Bay Road. That being said, we've given them our traffic study. We have a 155-page traffic study that intricately counted every single car and went through all the necessary data and research and provided their summaries, which I did put Vinny in the MCDOT summary folder prior to tonight's meeting with the summary of their findings. All of that is still under review. So I think for tonight's meeting, we prefer to focus on everything else and every other concern so that when we do get answers from MCDOT, that's the last thing we need to discuss to then say, okay, you're good. Our problem that we're up against is TikTok. There's a time frame on us, right? So we have been trying to iron this out with MCDOT since June of last year. And finally, about a month or two ago, we said we cannot wait any longer. We have to start the zoning process to see what other dirty skeletons are in the closet that we don't even know about. Okay? So that is why we are here tonight, to start the process just before we even got a chance to speak. We're already meeting in what day? May? May. So by the time we get to the trustee level, where this actually gets approved or denied, by then I would think MCDOT and all these answers would be solidified and done and everybody knows. Okay?
Perfect. And then, yeah, my last question. I agree with all the businesses that are going to go here. It's going to bring numerous jobs for all ages for the community, which will be very beneficial. Can you give me an estimated number of how many jobs you think will be created for the community?
I was talking with the guy that drives the fire truck in Johnsburg, actually, Bill Wilbur, if anybody knows him. And he estimated off the top of his head 40. I do not take that number at all. There's 7 different businesses. I would anticipate that in the summer months, when the restaurant is open and we have servers and cooks and hostesses or whatever there, or 40 to me seems quite large. I don't have an exact number for you, but I can tell you that maybe I should get that for you for the next one.
Okay, perfect. All right, I have no additional questions. Thank you. Mike, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Member Calhoun?
We talked about realigning Salem. If Salem, for some reason, doesn't have to move, is that something that you are going to be using as their main access, obviously, to the Dubs. Is that something that you guys are going to repave, take care of, maintain?
Yes. I very early on when we proposed this, the village asked if we use Salem Avenue, are you willing to repave it? And I said yes, so I'd be willing to honor that promise I made in the very, very beginning. As far as repaving Salem to basically what's white and what's there now in white. Yeah.
What about if it has to be widened at all? It's a narrow road, if you got guys coming in with 40-foot fountains and stuff trying to get trailers in, I don't know how wide your gate openings are gonna be.
So our gates are like kind of tapered, like they're kind of flared to allow the turning radiuses and stuff. So the one thing I'll mention with the Dubs facility is once the traffic is in there, like once they fill these, my goal as the business owner is to not ever let them leave. Most of the traffic is very much contained to within the property itself. So if we are housing a boat in any of the units that you pick to choose there, and they call and say, hey, can you put our boat in? All of the traffic for us to put their boat in the water is contained to within the site. Are there the occasional people that will come pick up their boat and take it to Lake Geneva for the day or weekend? Sure. But we think the vast majority will be on site.
You haven't talked about building G at all today, this evening. Is that something that's going in?
Yeah, so building G, forgive me with the error with this not showing up, it was on there, I just missed it. So building G is basically a big open building for us to store the equipment that we use to move the boats around. I could see in the winter packing it full of boats. That's another thing to mention is that with this business concept, the vast majority of these units, vast majority, are going to be boats. So for 6 months out of the year, it's going to be very inactive. Nobody's getting their boat in the middle of February.
How you would talk about,
Is that bottom brown thing?
yes, that would, G is the bottom brown building.
G is just to the west of the pond.
Are you going to have to use those ponds for drainage, for off-site, for retention or detention?
Yes, so to comment on Laura King's question from earlier, there are wetlands on the property. They are identified on the site plan. We had Hay and Associates delineate our wetlands. The neighbors probably saw some flags out there a year ago. So they are identified. They are determined to be of low quality wetlands. It's a very thin band, basically. You can kind of see between the two ponds. The lower version is the existing pond, open water pond, and the area to the north of that is the pond expansion. So that we're basically expanding the pond area to accommodate the stormwater and necessary needs that we need there. Ultimately, that would tie back into, there's a stormwater, Tim could probably speak more intelligently to this than me, but there's some sort of restrictor or something that releases the water at a certain rate back into the river. But that's all engineered and coordinated with Army Corps and all the correct people.
You said you're going to be the one policing it, and as far as the condos and the storage facilities, how do you, just by being there, or
I can tell you by the one building it, we're not going to build it in a way that they can sleep there. There's not going to be any bedrooms. I plan on having the office there. I would be more than willing to sign documents with the village saying that we're not allowed to sleep there, so long as we follow those codes for that. If we're taking a hard stance with that, and I agree that we should, I just want to make sure that we're pursuing that in all aspects. So.
And I love the concept of the condos. I really like it. Why are you, and I understand your philosophy of building the Riverwalk and doing, and trying to get more people in there. Why wouldn't you build more, do what you got with the car condos, but put other condos behind it instead of that vast storage facility? And
mainly because I don't have anywhere to store my boat, and neither do my family members. That's what started the whole thing, honestly. But there's again, if you look at the entire scope of the the property itself and the state that it's in, it needs immediate help from a financial standpoint, and what can you build quickly to stabilize the property? It is the Dubs units. If you start building all these different condos that take much longer, the financial numbers just don't work. So we thought about putting traditional condos there. We looked into it quite a bit, and after many, many, many hours of research, we determined it didn't make sense.
And then you would just mention that, are you going to build the storage first before you do the condos?
Yes, so phase one is the orange buildings and all of the mass grading for the entire site, along with the expansion of the harbor and the seawall, like the marine work. And then basically phase two is the brown buildings and red buildings, but the vertical construction only. Our goal is to get all the infrastructure in when we do mass grading. We'll stub into the building footprints for plumbing, for example, or sanitary or water, like get all the site utilities in. So phase two is pretty fast and is just vertical construction only.
Is this going to be hooked up to the new city sewer too?
Yes.
Okay. And do you guys own this property?
We are under contract on the property.
Contract. And what's the difference, I don't know if you even know, so you're going to sell these condos, these car condos, is there a different rate of sales tax as far as for selling a condo versus a residential condo? You have that knowledge?
I do not know, to be honest, but we can find out and get back to you.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Member Barrett.
Well, I guess to take a step back, thank you. I know everyone in this room has been concerned about that property for a long time. This is a huge step in the right direction for our village. So you put a lot of time and effort into it, and I'm sure you put a ton of money into it already. So thank you for taking it this far. And I'm excited to see if this is something that we can see in our village. I love your tie to the community. I love that you want to be part of it. I know exactly where you live. You could throw a rock and hit the village line from Johnsburg.
James actually saved my dog off of Bay Road one time, and we didn't even know it until recently.
Yeah. It's actually a funny story, but I won't. I really appreciate everything. But to get into questions, could you elaborate a little bit more on the phases? Obviously, I understand phase one, phase two. What is the time between phase one finishing and phase two getting started and then completion? And what would be holding you back to start phase two at any point in time?
So, as far as schedule, I am a schedule guru for once we start construction, okay? That's all I've been doing for the past 15 years is I get gentlemen like Josh to tell me I need to go faster, and I have to schedule like crazy as far as the actual construction goes, right? So once we do, very fast. Once we do start, that is my area of expertise, and as far as the quality and the on-time delivery and all the on-site stuff, I can crush and knock out of the park. I am somewhat of a fish out of water on the front end, standing here speaking with everybody tonight and going through this process on the front end. Josh normally does that well before I'm even assigned to a project, okay? So anyway, as far as the timing, on the front end, I would have thought we were much further than this process. I thought we'd be through the trustee board level at this point. So I don't know from a timing perspective how long it's going to take to get through through that.
Sorry, let me rephrase to make sure, because if tomorrow you were breaking ground,
Right.
how long for phase one to finish? And
Okay.
then how soon after phase one would phase two finish?
So my original
Start and finish.
schedule basically showed starting construction on phase one in the fall of 2025. It would be completed by the spring. Let me think about this. I'm going off the top of my head. I think it was 8 months of construction.
Okay.
And it was over the winter, and we liked that because it was basically doing the harbor work and a lot of the mass grading. Yes, there's some cold winter conditions, but at the end of the day, you don't have too much to worry about with that. So I think it was 8 months. I think I had a year from the time we started phase one until phase two started. We're starting a new business, right? So there's not only do you have to build it and get the harbor and the Dubs building built, but then as soon as that happens, you got to stabilize it, right? So I remember giving myself the summer, whatever was left of summer, and then trying to get all the boaters that are storing their boats for that winter season, trying to capture all of those people, and then starting phase 2.
Okay. Is phase 2 dependent upon any kind of income stream, success in phase 1, 100% capacity within the Dubs units?
Yes, phase 1 provides the financial stability to give the minimum returns to the investors. Phase 2 is basically how we pay the investors out. So like until, I guess that's an important thing to discuss. So again, I'm not this crazy multimillionaire. I'm like everybody else sitting in this room that just has a tremendous amount of determination for this thing. I will be giving 70 to 80% of the profits that phase 1 brings in to the investors until I get them out, right? Once I get them out, then we can work with all of the revenue stream for that. But in order to get the investors out of the entire project, I have to build phase 2 to be able to pay them off, to then get them out and then start recouping all that money myself. So there's a huge financial incentive for me to see phase 2 through and make sure it happens as quickly as possible.
What do your projections show from when phase 1 is complete and you're actually operating and generating cash flow to when you would break ground on phase 2?
About a year. For the next meeting, I will give a more accurate date for that, but it's about a year.
So the reason
I have an issue answering that like with an exact date is because it depends how long this front end takes. Because I need to rent. I can't open in the middle of February. I might as well not open at all. No one's going to go pull their boat out of storage in Lake Geneva and bring it here. So it's very dependent on the season in which we start building and it becomes available and when we can drive people to the boat storage area.
No, absolutely. And please understand, my questions are not pointed to shoot this down by any means. I think everybody's really excited to see if we can make this work. But part of the reason why I was asking such pointed questions there is because I used to slip at this marina back when Mario owned it and the restaurant was operating in the hotel. And I was there pretty much early on, and my parents were there, and my brother and sister were there, so I had 3 people in that existing marina that were all family. Okay. So we got pretty close with them while we were there, and their phased approach obviously did not work very well, because they had set it up where they were going to first start renting the slips to generate money from the boat rental, from everyone renting the slips. And while they rebuilt the hotel, to then start generating money that way, and then open the lower restaurant that they added in, which was awesome at the time, and generate that so then they could eventually build the other property. Well, I mean, I think all of us know how the story went, which is rather unfortunate. We all wanted it to be successful. Mario unfortunately passed, and the other steps that went along with it I think were a little bit tough to deal with, but so that's part of my reason for asking that. Do you anticipate being closed during the winter with the retail, with the boat dealers, or the showroom, I suppose, and the ice cream shop, and I don't know if I said that right.
I don't anticipate being. I think there's certain fun things that we could still have for the community. Like I envision the ice cream shop turning into hot chocolate and Santa Claus in the winter. I'm not saying that we're going to drive a bunch of people there every single day in the winter, but maybe we open for a short period in the winter and do that. We don't have established hours for anything yet. We can work on that if that's something everybody would like to see and think through that a little bit more. The showroom, I do think the showroom would always be open, along with the retail. It's kind of the restaurant in the base of the hotel, the retail, the showroom, I kind of see that kind of always being open. The ice cream shop, you've got to think about it a little bit more.
I know in part of what we're asking for is for a smaller setback on the property. And it is trying to lower it down to an 8-foot setback. Can I ask why?
Yeah, so along Chapel Hill Road, the person speaking before me mentioned the MDOT stuff. So one of the things that they're doing, we are not driving the need for this 4-lane highway. That is a 2006 study that basically just south of Bay and Chapel Hill Road, they have this 4-lane intersection that's like this, or 4-lane road that's a bypass around downtown McHenry, goes all the way to Bull Valley. It has nothing to do with us. As far as our development driving the need for that, it's been a plan since before the housing boom, and they were trying to accommodate high amounts of traffic. However, since we're so close in proximity, the right-of-way taking that MDOT wants along Chapel Hill Road was drawn to the early 2000s, and we're asking to reduce that because when that study is drawn, it covers, I don't know, thousands of parcels of land, right? And basically, once a developer comes like us along, they have to take a look at that high-level plan and start getting in the weeds with it more, right? And breaking down exactly what do they need, right? So we took that plan, and this is partially why the MDOT stuff is dragging on so long, but we took that plan and we said, hey, listen, everything that you guys want to see in this 2006 study, your turn lanes, your taper, your added right-of-way, all this, we can accommodate all of it. But you don't need as much as you were saying that you needed. So they have agreed to that point, okay? The point that we're at right now is how much are they reducing it by? So the reason I'm bringing up all of this MDOT stuff is because our setbacks are from the newly proposed right-of-way taking, which is a minimum of an additional 20, 30 feet. So setbacks from the existing road would be, you said 8 feet, they'd be 38 feet. So it gets kind of confusing, and we can pull up, they're different. That tight one that you're talking about is right by the retail building, where we have our turn lane into the property, and there's a sidewalk right there and the bike path right there. Adam, what do you know off the top of your head the setbacks for the motor cave building D?
50 feet. But I think what committee member Barrett's talking about specifically is the 8-foot setback right there.
Right there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, you should have said that sooner.
Well, I said 8 foot. I said 8 foot. I don't know how many 8 foots there are there.
All right, so that one this is a very tight spot for us. So again, Class A facility, one of our biggest problems that we had is how do you maintain the turning radiuses? If you have a 36-foot long trailer and you have a 20-foot long truck, how do you back into that unit? So our facility is very, very much different than a standard like U-Haul crummy facility. It's extra wide turn aisles. People don't typically do this because you lose all the rentable square footage to the drive aisle itself. But there is a certain amount of units that we had to fit in there to make all the fun stuff happen that we just presented on. And to do that, this is the layout that we need to achieve.
Okay.
So it's basically, once you add up all the dimensions of all the different units and those radiuses, that's why we continue to go back and forth with MDOT for every inch.
Sure. Ultimately, the answer is you need that many units in order to be a profitable business, in order to provide some of the functionality of the other parts of the property.
So again, it's very much a give and take. So if we reduce these orange buildings, then we have to decide as a village, as a family together, what we're going to take away from the fun side of things. We think this is the best balance of maximum fun at the river and maximum storage at the backside, but maybe that's not what the village wants, and we have to tweak that a little bit. But that's the give and take that we're up against.
And those are some of the things that we have to ask ourselves about, obviously, because there's additional properties that can be built back there, and having buildings that close to the setback that's not normal, obviously that's going to be a concern, I think, of some people. For Salem, that wouldn't have any MDOT consideration, right? Salem would be completely under the VOJ, and anything that needs to be done with that road would be decided by us, correct?
Yeah, my understanding that's under the village's corporate jurisdiction. I believe so.
The access to Chapel Hill Road is their jurisdiction.
Theirs.
So they will tell you whether that's full, restricted in some way, shape, or form.
Because they may require load lanes and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what we're still pending.
Still pending. And again, we're just trying to keep the process moving so we can talk about other things like your previous point, and hopefully by the time we get to the actual trustee level, we have more clarity on that. I think this MCDOT stuff seems to be a problem, ongoing problem with I'm not the only developer in town that's had issues with it, so I don't know how we go about fixing it, but it's a very real problem.
Can't comment, I only see the results. I don't deal with the legwork. So, okay, and then with the other entrance, obviously you're changing where the entrance is on the property. I'm sure everyone's probably been able to realize that, because it's going to align with Johnsburg right there. Now, because that's going to be moved on the property and also on the Chapel Hill, is that MCDOT, is that going to follow the same suit as Salem?
That
Where
is-
they're going to tell you what kind of load lanes you need and all that?
This is part of what's incorporated in our overall traffic study is the turn lane being required there. There's actually a left turn coming in if you're going northbound. So it'd be widening Chapel Hill Road right there. But as far as the alignment with Charnbrook right across the way there, that was in this exact same MCDOT study. That is one of the initiatives that they want to realign, and if you're doing a new entrance, we originally, Adam and I had the entrance, you can see the little tiny oblong shaped thing by the first big tree, that's where the boat is, the old boat from Door County. The entrance is just south of there right now. At a decent cost, time, and effort, we moved it to satisfy MCDOT. So we're hopeful that they don't have an issue with that because we've already kind of done what they wanted a long time ago.
And that alignment's consistent with the downtown plan that was reviewed, approved by everybody many years ago. That is one of the recommendations, that any type of development there would align up with Charnbrook instead of angle or offsets.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is MCDOT's jurisdiction to say how many turn lanes, visa lanes, the radiuses, the widths, the lengths, everything is on them.
And with MCDOT, and sorry I'm directing questions over to you guys, Tim. With MCDOT, with the county's access management ordinance, is that the proper way to refer to it? Which obviously the whole Chapel Hill Road improvement plan that's going to come from all the way north of 120 or south of 120, right? And come all the way through there at some point if it ever happens. But is that also falling into this property? Because I know the eventual plan would be to have it roll into Bay Road there. But does that do any of those requirements? Because obviously I know when neighborhoods get built out there, that's why the neighborhood out there, their berms are so far back, because it had to allow for that potential expansion.
There was an agreement between City of McHenry, Village of Johnsburg, and McHenry County DOT. All three agreed how important preserving the right-of-way. That's why you see it that wide at Whispering Ridge, across from the golf course. Everyone agreed on, at the time, the potential development, the potential traffic, to move you from 120 to Bay Road or Bay Road to 120. And then, since that study was done, MCDOT, IDOT, and others chose to do other improvements. We added the roundabout, we added signals from 31 to Johnsburg Road. That's why there's nothing proposed for a bridge widening, because everything kind of comes to it and around that. Doesn't mean they couldn't widen their own bridge for pedestrian, sidewalk, things like that.
Right.
But the question's been asked quite a bit about widening the bridge for traffic, and it doesn't make engineering sense at this time, because then what it does is it continues that through our downtown. It impacts the triangle plan, it impacts all those businesses. And with the other alternatives, that need has gone away.
Right. And then the potential cut through from Chapel Hill over to 31 too.
Yes.
Which, that's obviously a massive undertaking, but
yes.
That's
It's supposed to capture 120, come down Chapel Hill Road, and then the road that's there now is frontage road, and then it runs right through the drive, right through the drive-in, but that's way, way far out.
Right.
But the thought of that plan was to get another river crossing, which follows FAP 420, which crosses the river, goes across Riverside Drive, and pops out on 31 behind Planet Fitness.
Yeah, right by the dog
That was
park.
the dream in the 50s and 60s of SAP 420.
Wow. I didn't realize it was that old. And it's neat when you look at an aerial map, you can actually see where it would go still to this day.
What's weird is it kind of wise off by Julia Way on Chapel Hill, and it almost, the new road would take a Y shape. So this is like, the McDOT's reasoning to that, to us, was that they're trying to get people to Bay Road to then ultimately go east to 12. So we're just barely touching that outer edge. We're actually, I don't know, we can talk on about that. But
Sure, yeah, I bet.
Save everyone.
Yeah. So right now, you're still waiting for McDOT to say, this is what you need to do.
Yes.
Okay.
We've given them 2 different submittals thus far, gone through the first round. I think we submitted our first round just before Christmas. Second round was in February, and we're waiting to get their comments to reply and continue the process with them.
Okay. And the Army Corps engineer, that starts to get way out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah, so
But-
Army Corps surprisingly has been relatively simple to work with thus far. We initially sent them our first conceptual site plan last summer and got a job number assigned and had a WebEx with the guy and kind of just went over our concept and like, hey, before we start getting really far with this, are you good? We've seen any big red flags? And they said no. Our latest round of Army Corps submittals, the second submittal went in, I think, 3 weeks ago, so same thing, we're waiting on comments back from Army Corps. So we did get, they get involved with like the wetland stuff, we did get the JD on that. They did weigh in and they came out and inspected the piers, we got the pier rights, stuff like that. So we've been in communication with them for a year, it's just now that we finally have more advanced drawings that will continue to advance. We're just continuing those communications along the way.
Okay. I think that is all the questions I have right now.
Thank you.
Member Block.
Most of my questions were already answered. I think it's a great presentation and a great idea. Question on Building G, will because it's closer into that residential area, will the design of that building match the other architect design of the other buildings? In other words, it's not just going to be a cinder block building.
It will not be a cinder block building, and our goal over there is to preserve, on our civil drawings, we have preserving the tree line. See how Salem kind of like wraps around? Our goal is to not let anybody even see the building off of Salem. We kind of kept it far enough back. I know Adam's got the setbacks on there from the property boundary, but it's even further to where the street is. The goal is to kind of hide that within the woods over there, so to speak.
But will the design kind of match?
The design would pretty much match the Dove's buildings.
Okay. That's kind of like I was getting at, so everything looks uniform and that and doesn't stick out.
Same color. I see these being, if everybody knows, it used to be called Chain of Lake Super Storage on Route 12 by Volo. I like the architecture of that facility. It's white with black roofs. We're not going to have orange or lime green. Like it's architecturally pleasing and modern in like the color selections and whatnot.
No other questions?
Thank you.
So now we'll open it up to the public. Mike will run that. And like you said, you guys, we got your slips. If you need to turn in a slip, you just bring it up and then come to the podium, name, address, and ask your questions to the, to these guys.
Yeah, as part of the public hearing, we do have the public comment period that we alluded to before. And the first slip I have is Mr. Richard Clements of 2805 Avenue, McHenry, Illinois, 60050.
Roger. I thought when I walked in, I thought I go, boy, that guy looks just like Roger Blood. But then that other sign, Daniel Loud, from my angle, looked, that's a Daniel Loud. It looks just like Roger Blood. So, but I know James, good man, good people up here. I love this town, and it's really a beautiful town. I've been on the river. I've had a boat at the boathouse for 25 years, and I've been out boating on the river for about 30 years. I live in between McHenry and Johnsburg. So I live off of Riverside and came up there. So I spent a lot of time here, and I just really feel bad when I come through town. I did a demo job about 15 or 20 years ago on a house, little house right in the middle of town, and the owner was kind of wrestling with whether he should wreck the house or not. And I said, well, it's a lot in the middle of town. I'm sure it'll sell really quick, And so he gave me the job to wreck the house, and the thing still has a for sale sign on it. So I feel bad for the guy every time I see that. But anyway, my point is that you have a river running right in through the village, and it's a great asset. And, I go through Rockford. I do a lot of work out by Rockford, and they got a river running right through the city, and they built their bridges like 3 foot over the water. And people, what a waste. It's sad. So it's just a great asset. McHenry's really booming from that river, the river business. So I just think it's something, it'd be nice to get restaurants on all 4 sides of the river there, all 4 corners or something, or some kind of business. This would be a great asset to the village. So that's all I wanted to say. Appreciate your listening.
Thank you, Mr. Clemens.
Thank you.
Next, I have, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Landon Schell of 2013 West Indian Ridge Drive, Johnsburg, Illinois.
Hi, my name is Landon Sharp.
Sharp, sorry.
It's okay. I live at 2013 West Indian Ridge Drive, right here in Sunnyside Estates. Grew up in McHenry, went to school in McHenry. I'm here tonight with my wife and my sister-in-law. We all think that this would be a great addition to the village of Johnsburg. It'll get rid of the eyesore that we all seen that's been here for how many years? Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Sharp.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Next, I have Mr. Steve Schmidt. If he wants to provide his address, we'll take it. If not, that's acceptable as well.
1620 Oakley Drive, Sunnyside Estates. I've been out here for 47 years. I knew you when you were the side of a grasshopper. But it's been an eyesore for a long time, and what Mike is presenting here is great, something for people that have boats or want boats to have a place to store them. Right now, they're all sitting in their yards or 15, 20 miles away. Here it's community, they'll be in the community, and hey, call up, hey, can you get my boat in? Boom, and you're done. I mean, I'd love to have a boat, but when you start looking at the prices and have to go to Fox Lake to go use your boat, as opposed to convenience. So, good luck, and I hope it goes through.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Good to see you. It's been a long time.
Next, it's a Michael Weberry.
You agree.
4212 Riverview Drive, Johnsburg, Illinois.
Mike, been in the village for about 10 years with my wife, Crystal, and boater, live on the channel, so get on the water a lot. We like to go visit the restaurants. It's a little far to go to McHenry to get a good time. It is very rough right there to park at what's there now, so having a safety entrance in there, it's very, very appealing. And I think we frequent that quite a bit. And having that public walk and the ice cream, it's amazing. So I definitely like the concept, and hopefully you'll find a way to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Miss Laura Mazie of 3615 Garfield Road, Johnsburg.
This is just more out of curiosity. The motor condos, Now they're going to be sold, and about how much do you think they're going to go for?
We don't have pricing finalized because we don't have our numbers finalized because we're still working through all of these processes, right? Our goal is to be slightly cheaper than buying a house, a home on the riverfront, okay? So I'll tell you the answer I was giving the people at the boat show that they liked by the end of it was they start unfinished in the mid 300-ish range. Don't quote me exactly on that. And if you decide to buy finished units that are consecutive in a row, we could see over $1 million. So it kind of, there's a wide range of possibilities for people.
Okay. And the boat slips, are any of those going to be for, got boats there now, to keep your boat in there all the time?
So right now, until we get the operations of the marina up and running and we see the demand that we have for the dubs and people coming in and bellying and how that works, we're reserving a ton of them right now just for the public and that. The only strip I see is the furthest one away from us in the photo here. That's the only private ones I see, and as of right now, I see those being tied to the sale of the condos. Yeah.
And then with the storage units, we have an antique car. Is it only boats, or could we put our car there in the marina?
We're saying vehicles only at this time. So something of value that has an engine. The price point for these is going to filter out most of them because our prices are slightly higher than a traditional storage, right? Because we have to pay for the extra wide drive aisles and such that I was describing. But our concept is vehicles only.
Okay, do you have any kind of idea about how much those might cost?
We do, but I'd rather not disclose at this time because there's still a lot of moving parts.
Sure, I understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Mason.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Greg Kelly of 3312 Carnington Way, Johnsburg.
Good evening, Commissioners. I just want to applaud Mike for this grandiose plan. I think it would be a welcome addition to the community, especially given what we're looking at now. I've been a McHenry resident for the last 20 years and actually Johnsburg resident for the last 4 years. I actually live in Chapel Hills Estate, so we are directly impacted or associated with this project. You look at the plans and the use of this facility, and it all basically comes down to the seasonal use, right? I mean, we all know in Northern Illinois we have a very short recreational window of opportunity in Illinois. You're lucky to get 4 months, right? So we're talking about really increased traffic on Chapel Hill Road for about 4 months out of the year, right? That 4 month period is when school's out too, right? So if you factor in the 9 months the school's in session, it's probably going to even out about the same amount of traffic when it all comes down to it. Maybe a little bit more on the weekends. But you know what? For what this project is going to offer the village, if I have to wait another 2 minutes to turn left into my subdivision because of this asset to the community, I say it's well worth it. And this, to me, is something that we've been wanting and needing for this community for a long time, and I wholly support this project. I hope the commissioners also support it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Next, I have a slip for Mr. Jim Williams of 5715 Saddle Ridge.
Good evening, board members and the evening neighbors. My name is Jim. I've lived in Johnsburg for 10 years. I'm up in Prairie Estates. I think I kind of have a unique perspective on Mike because I've been you before. I work in the commercial real estate business, and 10 years ago I met Mike in your position. And we interviewed him, and we were selecting for massive renovations and properties. Mike and I have spent $30 million together. And I just want to applaud him. He did a great job with the presentation. And over the last 10 years, we've done a lot of projects with other contractors. Mike has been one of the preferred contractor supervisors. I've been elbow to elbow with Mike on a daily basis for years at a time in projects that did not always go smooth. And I worked with a dozen different project managers. Mike's top notch. his character and his skills, which is honestly second to none. I can't say enough about him, and I just want to tip my hat to him. I think he's done a great job with the project. So I want to wish you the best and applaud you. But I think it'd be a great project for the city, and I can't think of a better guy to run the job. So thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Williams. Next, we have Mr. Brad Fox. Whether you wish to provide your address, your discretion.
Hello, my name is Brad Fox. My address is 5714 Meadowlark Lane in Johnsburg, Prairie Estates. I've been a member of the community for 40 years. Parents raised my sister and I here. We've had multiple businesses throughout the years, and I sell a house or two in Johnsburg. So I just want to say that I am 100% for this development. I think everybody here in this room can relate that it is an eyesore and that it's just dead space right now. I think, everybody I believe that everybody else thinks that they want more stuff for the community. They want more stuff for the kids. And I do appreciate Mike explaining to us how the different phases work, where, hey, if we want to have an ice cream parlor, if we want to have, the marina, if we want to have a splash pad for the kids, for the community, we have to do phase one before we do phase two. And I do appreciate the explanation on that, the timeline on that, and why you have that amount of units that you need, because you have put a lot of time, effort, thought, and budgeting into this to say, hey, this is our sweet spot, this is what we need to do to really make this property, boom, for the village of Johnsburg. What else did I have here? I'm sorry, guys. I do like, of course, the motor condo section of it, but I really, really do. I'm very optimistic about the whole Riverwalk feel. I think everybody sees McHenry. A lot of people see McHenry and how booming their economy's been since they built the Riverwalk and the little shops and stuff like that. And I think it would just be a great, great addition for the village of Johnsburg to bring in some new faces, some new money, and really make this town, what we all see in it. It's to be a premier destination for the chain links. So with that being said, I am 100% fully supportive of the project. I'm excited to hopefully see it take off and really make Johnsburg more of a staple on the map. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, I have Mr. Kenneth Kawa. Do you want to speak from there? Would it be easier? Okay. And I believe this gentleman is from 3123 Bella Lane.
Can you pull up the general layout again? Yeah.
Ready?
Hey, Benny, can you pull up the general layout?
Yes.
Sorry. Quick question I got for you. Anybody can be using the boat ramp, right?
So it's only people that either rent a Dove's unit or a motor cave owner. So no.
Because I was wondering where you can store the trailers and stuff if you have.
Yeah, so.
I mean, general public can't use that boat ramp.
No, the general public cannot. You must be a renter of a Dove's unit or own a motor cave to be able to use the boat.
I can't see where you would put trailers.
Right, yeah. We do have a different, more detailed civil drawing that shows trailer parking, where we're going to put them.
Okay. Of all the people in the room, I own that house right there. That's my house. Okay. So it affects me. You understand? Is this some kind of a turnaround here, or?
That's just trying to show the existing road.
That little area that's not shown. Okay, and I asked it to you once before too. Are you going to be putting boats in for people? Are you going to have like a little tow for trucks there?
So
someone in the storage area wants their boat put in the water. Are you going to be doing it for them, or are they?
Yes. So we will offer in and out service.
Yeah.
They will also have the option to come and launch it themselves. We think the vast majority, we think 80%-ish, are going to want us to put their boats in and out for them.
Okay. Because I talked to you before, if you remember.
Yeah, so I went, you guys, and I knocked on Ken's door and I said, hey, I'm Mike, I'm here, here's my phone number, talk to me if you need something. Again, this is the value of me being a local guy that cares, okay?
Yeah, well, like I said, I was worried about it because I got the house right there. The backup alarms, you know, I mean, it could be like Skipper Bud's or Boathouse, you hear that all day long.
So the good part with our concept is everything is at grade level. So the typical forklifts, the $1 million plus forklifts that you see at Ball Knob, or now called the Boathouse, we do not have a need for them. So I promised Ken that I would figure out a way to not have, I mean, I can't help during construction.
No, I understand that.
But after construction, we will find a way to not have backup alarms.
Yeah, because it is an OSHA rule, you know that.
We do, but you don't need it on it.
Okay, Mike, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, while you're there, answer that one. These are all pretty much, they're going to be on trailers in these storage units, right?
Correct.
It's not a dry dock?
It is not a dry dock. So one of the reasons that I will not or cannot store my boat at the boathouse is they charge you extra to store the trailer. So as a responsible person that bought the trailer with my boat, I feel I shouldn't be penalized to pay for it additional to the dry rack. So everything is ground level on its own trailer, movable. Yep.
Next, Ms. Roberta Miller.
Yes,
Do you want to provide an address, and do you want to speak from there?
I would do. I have been a long-time member of Oakland subdivision and for over 60-some years. My family was summer people, and then my husband and I have greatly invested in Oakland subdivision. Our main area to get in and out is Salem Avenue. When you are doing construction, what are you going to do for us to get in and out of that subdivision? Because that is our only in and out, only emergency, only mail, only everything. So I'm kind of concerned about that, plus other things, but that first of all.
Tim, do you know if the county would let us do a temporary access off of Chapel Hill during construction?
We could ask. I have seen it allowed in other projects. But yes, since that's the only way in and out, we would come up with a plan.
My construction superintendent is telling me that we would try to, exactly like you're describing, stay off of Salem during construction and ask McDOT for a direct access temporary off of Chapel Hill.
We're happy that we're going to be aligned with Bay Road, because it is difficult to get in and out of the subdivision. That is a perk for us. But during all this time during the construction, there's a year and a half, 2 years, and it affects 26 homes. Also, what I'm asking about is Della Lane goes along where the green line is. Della Lane in our subdivision goes along there. Are you going to be putting a barrier along there so it doesn't bother our subdivision?
We do have plans for a fence, basically on the north side of Doug's building F. There's a fence that basically goes from there all the way to the water. Yeah.
Is there, what kind of a fence? Just a wooden fence?
We have not decided.
Well, the only thing is that will get hit, that will get knocked down. So there will have to be maintenance on that. We are concerned about access to those empty properties that we have. I am, because I have quite a few investments in there. There's one other question, and I forgot what it was. We are concerned about that brown building that's going to be put on that property. And
Which one is that?
It's going to be in the storage thing.
The one by the pond?
Yeah. People are going to go beating in and out. I know it's not going to supposedly bother us because you're going to have to give us a new way to get in and out of our subdivision.
Right. So building G, to let everybody know, is there's no public that would be able to access that one. That one would be strictly for our staff to operate. in and out. And the equipment, like maybe at the end of the night storing the equipment and stuff. Any general customer or guest that would rent a particular Dub's unit, they would not have the ability to store it in energy. It's basically reserved for in and out customers only in the summer, and then in winter just close the doors.
A lot of us were talking, we are concerned about the noise factor, because it's going to be going to midnight. It's going to be loud.
I would argue that boats typically come in by nighttime.
Oh, it's not only, there's going to be people, you know what I'm saying? And if they're going to stay there till 11 or 12 o'clock at night, I had a neighbor already asked me, how long is that going to be then? So, and I know they'll start in April and they'll go through October. So that's going to be a while. So at night, when you're ready to go to sleep, you got to go to work the next day. Are they going to be partying? And it's fun. I'm not against this because this is progress. It's just that we're concerned about what it's going to do to the subdivision. I am concerned.
I definitely hear your concern with the night stuff, and I just, in an effort to think out loud here, what are the hours, does anybody know of the boathouse? Like when they stop accepting boats coming in at night?
I think you have to, if your boat comes in after 7 o'clock, it waits until the next morning to go in.
So I kind of, as far as like staffing and movement on the site a lot, I'm not saying that there's not going to be nobody that would, some guy that was late night fishing or whatever, but I think the vast majority, of our staff that we would have on site would basically go home by 7 p.m. Again, we can finalize hours for the next time, but I will say the more active side of the property, the motor caves, I do see that running, later. I can't go tell somebody. You understand.
We'll just keep in contact.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Now that I know who you are, I kind of want to talk with you about some other stuff.
Could you ever, if it became a problem, put up a sound barrier? Like they put across the expressways,
I think the building itself is going to act as a very good sound barrier. Like instead of putting fencing and having open to drive aisles, that's one of the reasons our buildings are positioned the way they are. Is we limit the amount of fencing, and we're going to be able, like the building itself is the sound barrier.
Well, if you say if it became a problem, later on.
Yeah. Ken, you're so close. We're going to do whatever we can to make you happy.
Yeah. Okay. Specifically me, everybody else in the neighborhood. So
I know.
I think people are going to be enjoying the summer all day, all night long. They'll be on a river walk, right? So,
okay. Mr. Steve Huff, and let us know if you want to provide your address for the record or not.
I don't have to come up and talk. I think a lot of answers have been put out there that I don't live in Johnsburg, but I live down the street. I've known Mike for a long time, and his dad, and they're about as good as it's going to come. I don't think anybody is going to build something there that would care more than those guys. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Huff.
Yeah.
Next, Ms. King, do you want to speak again?
Well, I want to say that I feel like the zoning should wait until all of the feasibility studies are done. A vote on the zoning should wait till the feasibility studies are done, because that just seems like the responsible thing to do, in my very humble opinion. I hope his feasibility studies come back great, but the way I see it, there's things proposed in flood zones, McDOT saying the setbacks aren't right. We just have to see what these reports say. I don't do the reports, but somebody does them.
We did, we transferred this to May 14th so we can get more information. Like you said, it looks really great, but it's a process. So we're going to follow our process, and then we'll vote. And just so everybody knows, we're just a recommendation board. It's got to go to another board besides us.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Sarah Hagan.
Hello all. I just had a quick question as to how you were going to be handling the water needs of the property. You've got, 28 motor buildings, the hotel, the restaurant, the outside bathrooms, and at least building G, it looks like, is going to require a sprinkler system because of its size. So that was my question.
So as far as the water system, probably about, 8 months, a year ago, I called Heman Well Drilling. And we went through quite in detail the number of fixtures that each motor cave unit would have. This is actually how we came up with the number of units that each building has, right? So there's 7 per motor cave building. Building A and Building B would have its own well. Building C and Building D would have its own well. And there is an existing well that feeds the existing hotel and restaurant that we plan on either utilizing once we take it apart and see if it's still usable, or probably most likely putting a new one over somewhere between the, very close by to where it is now, basically just north of the, it's planned west, but north of the existing, or the new retail building. Yeah, does that answer?
I would imagine Heman knows this land and the quality of how deep the well needs to be, the amount of water available, it's not going to deplete neighbors. Those are all calculations that go into everything when they do the well drilling. I know I've dealt with them for years and years on things too. And when you call, they can usually tell you everything about the property if it's in this local area.
They know the property extremely well. I don't know if anybody's had anybody stay at the existing hotel, but they have an iron problem. There's a lot of rust. Tubs are turning orange and stuff. So Heman's been out there quite a bit, both on the water treatment side, but both on the well side. They're intimately familiar with the knowledge and of the property, and we have every intention to use them as a local Johnsburg establishment to do our well services.
Welcome to that side of the river.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm sorry, my question about sprinkler systems.
So our understanding, Adam, maybe you could speak to the sprinkler system a little bit more. What's the total square footage that we have right now for Dub's Building G? I can't see it.
20,000.
10,000.
So we'd have to put a firewall in there or a sprinkle?
Yes.
So we basically, the code for sprinklers is every 12,000 or 12,500?
12,000 north.
So we'd have to put a firewall within the building or a sprinkle. Those are our 2 options.
Next, Ms. Debbie Freitag of 3406 Oakdale Avenue.
Hi, I just wanted to say I think this is great because it is an eyesore. My question is, who are you marketing to? Because not all of Johnsburg is going to be able to fill all of those slots. So where are we going as far as marketing? How are we marketing it? And then my other question is for family members to say walk to the community. Is there going to be a sidewalk along that area? That's just really, just the marketing aspect of it. Are we bringing in people from Chicago? Are we bringing in people from local areas, Lake Geneva or whatever? What's our plan that way?
So as far as marketing the property, I think if I could go back in time and redo something, I went live on Facebook last fall to capture data on the typical boaters on the chain. I've boated on the chain my entire life, all right? And I have a very good idea of the size boats that are on the chain. But we wanted to verify our feasibility studies that, what's the most common length boat on the chain? What size unit do we need to offer? What's our unit matrix mix, right? The reason we did that on social media and kind of went prematurely with only the storage and none of the cool fun stuff is we wanted to verify that data and verify our numbers, right? So that's why a lot of people, when you first saw it, was just storage, where now this is kind of why we're unveiling for the first time the entire project. So basically, the boat storage, who are we marketing to? On an average weekend in the chain of lakes, there's 40,000 boaters on an average weekend. On a holiday weekend, there's 100,000 boaters. We need to capture less than 1% of the market to be able to fill our facility. I have huge marketing plans to push on my own boat and hire other people to go on their boats to, in the back of the room there's all these sandbar events and all the hot spots on the chain that we're intimately familiar with, and push flyers like this or hand out little floaties for anchor buoy markers or whatever the plan is there for marketing. But we truly believe that there's such a high demand for this that we can fill it in one summer season. Again, the timing, if we open in the middle of February, it's going to be a struggle. We probably wouldn't even start if that were to happen. We'd delay it till it made sense. But so yeah, that's who we're marketing to with those. As far as the motor caves, that's a very specific target market, okay? is there some guys that use them and there's some guys that buy 4 or 5, 3 units in a row and they have like $4 million worth of cars sitting there. I know that sounds crazy, but there's folks in Johnsburg that we know that have car collections that size. And the demand for these, you don't want to keep your cars in all these different spots. Everybody likes to have all their stuff in one spot. So are we Iron Gate in Naperville? Do we think there's a need for 179 of these units in town? No. But do I think we could realistically sell 28 of them? Yes. We have done zero marketing other than the boat storage, and we've already had, not pre-sales, but like people that are extremely interested in purchasing motorcades, and we have a healthy list already of people that are very interested in purchasing them. Okay?
Next, Miss Pamela Decker of 3109 River Park Drive.
You answered most of the questions with Roberta, but were you going to close off our road to get in? I live in the subdivision behind. When you bring us in over on the side of the water, where are you cutting us over then? Because your property ends there.
So you're talking if future Salem
Well,
were to
if you
happen?
close up Salem, I mean, I love Salem, that's my Serenity Drive, where when I go home, my husband had a stroke. So that's when I go home, all the trees, it puts me in a different perspective to handle what I have to do at home. So, but if you're going to come in on the other side, where will you bring us into our road that exists now?
So I will answer the question, but again, what we're approving tonight is just this plan. If it changes, we have to do this all over again. But to give everybody just a sense. Basically, Salem Avenue would start over here, it clips our property by like 15 feet or so, and then it would come around the wetland area that's additional outside of our property. We would have our own access to enter the Doves facility that's on this side of Building G, and future Salem would come around over here.
Doesn't a
That's what we're
farmer own
currently.
that property though?
What's that?
Doesn't another farmer own that property? If you're
Yes, so that's our biggest problem with Salem Avenue and the relocation of it, is we have nothing to do with that land. Our traffic studies prove that our demand on traffic is not high enough to drive the need for it, so that's
you're gonna
all
end up
discussions
keeping
with.
ours then.
Yeah. As far as if we are able to keep Salem Avenue as is and utilize it as we're showing, that the fire department, the village, nobody would ever let me cut access off to that. So we have to maintain access all the time.
Can you keep a tree line or
Farmland,
something?
it's for sale, young man.
Yeah, we're buying enough things.
Just saying. Mr. Bob Del Sandro of River Terrace.
How you doing? Good job. I hope it goes through. Since I own a high-performance shop that builds race cars right here in the area, I'm hoping my customers will buy from you.
All right.
So good job. I got one question to ask, and that's it. Every time I try to get something done in this town, the hoops I got to jump through. Are you going to require that they do all the infrastructure up front for all 3 phases of the project? That's to you guys. When I go ahead, and I've been in developments before, they require that. You got to put all the roads in, all the sewers, everything. They want all that stuff in place. Are you guys going to require that on this project? That's all.
I'm not sure that's a zoning question. I think that's an engineering question.
Yeah, I would agree. That would be in.
But it is a question, because honestly, I think these guys got something going on. But stuff goes sideways a lot of times, and then people are around, they have to pick up the pieces for these things. Is all the infrastructure going to be in place? I love the idea of the river walk. I love unicorns and rainbows and all that stuff. Are we going to get all that stuff? That's all I really want to know up front.
Well, what our board technically will give is the text amendment, for the changing of the zoning, and then it goes to the next level, and then that all gets hashed out. There is a very strict policies and procedures that we all follow in construction. I've been in it my whole life too, and it's a long and ongoing process, but that wouldn't really fall in our decision.
I hope you make the responsible one
We will push
for Johnsburg.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Del Sandro. Next, I have Mr. Keith Johnson of 2119 Woodlawn Trail.
Bill, I've known Mike since he was 3. He and my son were best friends, still are good friends. I know Mike's going to do a great job for you. I am a boater, and I am a car guy. Something like this, I've got friends all over the North Shore, northern suburbs, that would love something like this. Car shows, the Sunday, the coffee runs. I know that this is going to be nothing but top notch. Again, I know Mikey, but I know his whole family. That's what they are. They're going to make sure he does this right. But again, I hope it all passes.
Thank you.
We do appreciate a very good amount of information and stuff. Sometimes you did a good job with how you laid it out.
Okay, is there anyone else from the public who wishes to comment at this time? We've gone through all the slips, the registrations. Is there anybody else who nonetheless wishes to speak? Okay, seeing none at this time, we will close the public hearing on this. And Mr. Chairman, I turn it over to you and the board if you have any further questions or deliberations.
So I'll call for the closing of this meeting and the transfer to May 14th.
Yeah, well, we're not closing.
Well,
See if there's any more questions
I
for the
got-
commission at this point.
Do we have any more questions?
We had talked about hours of operation. At 7 o'clock, you were talking about possibly sending your guys home. For the people in the Dubs building that have their own in and out, is there a boat launch closed at 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock? Is that something that, I understand their concerns. They don't want to have, Jimmy that came in at midnight bouncing off the buildings with his truck.
Right.
And you don't either, I'm sure.
That's a valid question, and let us put some more thought to that before the next meeting.
Madam Dixon?
So, as an avid boater myself, and I slipped out at the boathouse, so I'm very familiar with their operations. With your, I'll call it in and out service, right? Where do you plan on staging boats? And how many are you going to be able to stage?
So, staging of the boats, once they're in the water, is basically all of these. So we kind of envision these as being the transient, all these are transient piers technically, but we envision like this whole row being for the restaurant, for the ice cream shop, stuff like that. This branch of piers is what we're reserving for the Dubs at this time. We have rights to use more of these with the Army Corps that we're going to hold on to for now and not allow any boats there until we get operations smoothly running, and then we'll finalize that. But for right now, because originally this whole bay was going to be private and this whole bay was going to be public. After thinking about it more, meeting with marine specialists in the areas, we want to keep that for Dubs operations.
And on that center dock area, each one of those slips, are they 2 slots or just single?
They're 2.
Each one of them all the way?
So this is 2 boats, 2 boats, 2 boats.
Okay.
Yep.
The reason, obviously, I see the amount of traffic that they have with their in and out service and the amount of boats that get stacked up on a regular basis.
Yep.
It's pretty
Pretty
wild.
Yeah, they got that big pier. So after realizing that, that's why we kind of we changed our minds and had allocated more spots to that for now.
So now, as someone that I use my boat often, I come back to my marina late often as well, and I see many boats lined up in their staging area for the overnight. Have you given thought to how many boats are going to sit overnight that may take away the transient slips from people that might be there, where maybe somebody comes back at 8 o'clock and everyone is there enjoying the ice cream shop and at the thing and walking over to grandma's to get Mexican food, and somebody comes back and they don't have an available spot to put their boat, and they don't have access to move their boat back into their Dove storage unit, so therefore they have to leave their boat on a slip, and there's no slip space available, because obviously it's kind of small, right? The amount of slips there.
Yeah, it's 62 slips total, so I think that that's certainly a scenario, but I don't see it being a very common one.
Okay. And I'm not trying to one-off it, you know, obviously, like what happens if a hurricane comes in, you know, I'm not going to do that. But just thinking out loud of what I see at my own marina, so,
Yeah.
okay.
I think our biggest issues would be on like 4th of July, which we would then just staff up crazy to make sure we hedge off any issues like that.
Councilman Black, do you have any more questions? Nope. Okay, so right now we'll call for
Motion to table to the 14th of May
Okay.
at 7 o'clock here.
Second.
I'll second, but I also do want to just make kind of a general comment from my standpoint. I love, we'll say almost everything about it, right? You know, there's pros and cons to everything. I would be just absolutely ecstatic to see this get built in our town. My concern right now in being able to ever say yes at a point in 30 days from now or 45 days from now, I cannot personally bring myself to say yes until I have answers from the Army Corps of Engineer and answers from McDOT on how the easements are going to be. There's just no way possible I will ever come to an answer on that.
Okay.
I love the idea, I do, and I do not want to discourage you from moving forward on this at all, because I want you to. I want to see this get developed. Small bugs, but I mean, I look at this as McDOT saying, no way in the world, you're not going to do this. And I know you've had a lot of dialogue with them, but until, I mean, they're the gospel when it comes to this.
So, am I allowed to speak?
Yeah.
So my comment with that, Jim, would be that we give conditional approval that as far as this doesn't change, then yes. If this changes, we have to come back here and have this conversation again. Right. That's basically what we're looking for, because we do have a time constraint component to this, and we're running out of time. Right. So we, in an effort to keep the things moving, and again, we were hopeful to come here tonight and get approved. We kind of thought it was going to get tabled potentially, but like we're already into May, and then by the time we have that, because whatever happens, or June, July, like we're bleeding out on time. And
what is your time constraint?
We're keeping it somewhat secretive for now. Not secretive, but not disclosing to the general public.
That's fine.
All right,
Mike, great presentation. Want to thank the public for all their comments and perspectives. I just think this will be a phenomenal asset to Johnsburg. We need this.
Yeah. Okay, so we got a second motion to close the meeting. Member Calhoun?
Yes.
Member Dixon? Aye. Member Bear?
Yes.
Member Black?
Yes.
Great, super. And not to do anything, you guys, but we have one more meeting, so like some of us in construction, we have to get up at 3:30 in the morning. So if I could have everybody just mosey out, we'd really appreciate it so we can open up the next meeting that's a closed meeting.
People are welcome to stay here. I mean, everybody's welcome to stay, but it's really boring. The next part's not really. I know.
Hey, come on over to the house. Are you still over the same house? Come on. That was already working. All right, continue.
Next, we have a special reconvened special zoning meeting. New business consideration of proposed text amendment to section 7, accessory uses and structures by adding section 7.9 electric vehicle charging of the Johnsburg zoning ordinance.
We've done that? Hey, if we can have your stuff out in the hallway, please, so we can finish our meeting.
Is there a recommendation to approve the proposed text amendment?
First off, does anyone have any questions about the text amendments? Gentlemen.
I have one. Wayne said we're here, is anything about apartments or townhouses?
Well, it does get into, actually.
Does it?
It does speak to,
That's,
speaks to private, the public ones when it gets into, shall be allowed on any accessory use of multi-family residential, business, commercial, or industrial zone. Okay. So then as you go on, it speaks to the terms of that. And it talks about how you can't just like, for example, you can go in your home and let it pay the charge.
Okay.
You would like to have that happen?
Yes. I was one about
7-9-14. Right.
I was at 7941, where I read it, okay. All right, that was my other question.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah.
Jim lost his paperwork.
Yeah, two there in front of you was left with the agenda.
Where did somebody take my?
I might have.
Michael.
The lawyer stealing stuff?
Two things that I was wondering about. I think about gas pumps, right? Like, gas pumps need to be inspected on a regular basis. Are there any requirements that we need to consider for any type of inspection, or is that governed by any kind of different agency that we have to worry about?
Well, the village wouldn't be the authority to inspect anything. I mean, obviously when they're installed, obviously the inspection, but you're saying of ongoing monitoring to like check off.
Yeah, and I don't even know if that's something we need to think about. That's what popped into my head,
I do know this, you guys, so we're building the casino, and Tesla has come to the casino, Penn Gaming, and we are adding 6, and Tesla does require, there is code compliance to these things. There's very high dense in electrical components to these things. They're going to have, like this one, we had to put in 2 transformers just to power this stuff up. So there is regulations, just like your gas station has very many regulations that they have to follow. I don't know all the indents of them, but we've had quite a few meetings on this and through the construction part of the process of it. And they have very high code compliance that they have to follow. And Tesla does too, or the charging company that will supply these things. You know what I mean?
So does ComEd play a role in any of that, or?
I'm not aware, and that's something we can try to find out between now and the board meeting, if you wish.
Yeah, to firm that up. And if there's something that we need to reference in this, to that effect, we can do that and incorporate it. Or if it's just standardized, whether we have an ordinance or not, it's a regulation.
Right.
From higher bodies than
Yeah,
us.
exactly. That's what I didn't know if there was really anything for us to add any language. Just
the installation of them. Vinny, you're going to have an inspection process, from foundation to it.
That's more the building concept of the trade and energy compliance code and electrical code. I think zoning is, will you allow this structure here, right? And then building will, as a bit of redundancy to this whole process in chapter 24, hey, now these are the requirements, this is what's due, certification letters for the things. There's multiple amounts of relays, breakers involved with these charging stations. The higher the capacity, the more redundancies of relays for things to trip. Because the last thing you want to see is a fire and an EV vehicle. So we actually participated in our last cohort, right? Our fire department in Kent Township Fire Protection District already secured the fire blankets. This fiscal year, they're proposing a special fire sprinkler system, and there's dead switches in these batteries that actually negates for when the fire starts in one of these charging locations. But accessory structure to the principal person, you know how I am on email. If I have to go after someone
Yeah.
I make it my job.
I mean, the electric cars has become a major challenge for the fire departments because it takes twice to 3 times much more effort to distinguish that car compared to a regular
Special
automobile. I've had
total
conversations
locations,
about that too.
reignite, they have to be quarantined from a different area. Absolutely, there's definitely protocols in place. Olson's Towing has that facilitated in their operation. Our township, they were all trained on all their firemen, according to what Deputy Chief Bush provided me. And they actually held the course, and another entity called Junkyard Dogs, don't get misconstrued by that name, but that's where they put on this battery charging capacity. They went over every types of vehicles, on the Teslas, the frame of it is a battery, versus some of these Nissan Leafs, which is down the center console. So they all participated in the same thing that we were going through.
Is there a difference in the charging stations that John Q. Public has at Walmart than your home charger? You
Yes.
just plug it in the wall at the house, or I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, different levels. There's like 3 phases of levels. What you probably saw at the casino is a fast charger at level 2.
Yeah.
Then there's a supercharger that's at Victor Ford on Route 12 that is obviously like 30 minutes full charge battery. Level 2 is a couple hours, whereas your residential home, right, it only pulls 240, so that's like a level 1.
Yeah.
So you need like an overnight parking.
So 8 hours or
So you just plug it in the wall in the house?
Yeah, you can actually plug like a Tesla in your 110 outlet. It's only going to take you like 2 days to get like a full charge. But that's where you go
More
from
than
level
that,
1
right?
charger and you pull 240, right? 208 to 240, right? Let's not get into electrical terms. And then a 480 would be your level 2, what you see at business establishments. Walmart currently has one right now for their infrastructure. This is specific, my understanding, for now the public can use. Right, Walmart has it for their electric delivery vehicle. I don't think I've ever seen one plugged in. Same residential homes require the junction box, and there are some residents in Johnsburg that actually have charging in their interior garages right now.
Yeah. And then the only other thing I just wanted to at least just talk amongst ourselves about would be the advertising decibels. Shall not exceed 55 decibels at any times. No advertising between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. I think back to our horror situation with the Kelly's Market witch hunt here, right? And I think about if they were going to have an EV charging station, where would that be on that property? Well, that would be probably right up next to that fence that's going to be right next to that person's house. So I thought to myself, what is 55 decibels? So, you start to look at some things, I don't know if that's something that someone's going to hear constantly if they're sitting in their backyard that is going to be annoying. I mean, I know I wouldn't like it.
Do you know what a Maytag washing machine is? Right, back like in the early 2000s? That's the commonly referred to as 70 decibels. Your exhaust on your car is limited to 96 decibels. So 50 is like, when you ever went to the gas station pump and you hear that amazing radio, right? They're like, watch the gas station TV.
Yeah.
That, but if you're 10 feet away, our conversation's probably already at 70 decibels.
It's not that, it doesn't travel that far, does it?
No.
Not 50 decibels. I'm confident in saying that response to you.
Yeah, no, and that's fine.
It's going to be like an annoying vacuum cleaner going off all day long.
Right.
Yeah, no,
Yeah. Sign up for our gas card. Get 5 cents off.
Yeah.
And that's just on repeat for 12 hours a day.
It's usually very motion activated on those advertisements. They don't want to run more like the TVs on the speakers or anything, so usually it's censored just when it's activated.
My name's Jimmy Barrett. Welcome to Johnsburg.
I agree on that because BP was that way.
School board.
Yeah.
When I get out and I go to that pump, that's when that thing's
Not
on
electioneer.
Yeah.
Now that you said it that way, you're right, it doesn't. They're activated.
Technology is way smarter than I am. I promise.
Tell me about it.
Well, we'll monitor.
That was all I had.
Black. Black.
Good to go.
Okay, do you guys care to, you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, we accept the EV findings in the zoning commission.
Okay.
We're putting this stuff away. I'd like to read it properly.
I'll second it.
Second? Yeah. Okay, so we got a motion. We'll adjourn it.
Just roll call on the motion.
Roll call on the motion. I always forget that one. Member Calhoun.
Yes.
Member Dixon. Aye. Member Block.
Yes.
Member Barrett. Aye. All right.
Now you
Motion.
can ask for a motion.
Motion
Now we're
to adjourn?
motioning to close the meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second? All right, ayes?
Aye.
Oh.
2 hours and 20.
You want to let him know he can
Get
come in
some
here so
rest.
he can start
Hey, you know what, though?
taking out his stuff?
I actually...
Yeah, he's just waiting in the
That
parking
was
lot.
a meeting that 96 people didn't bitch about the same thing.
I thought it was
It was
going to
nice.
be like 10 to